So, hello and welcome to our DM Deep Dive with D&D in a Castle. My name is Tara, and I am here today with Ted Adams, or Nerdarchist Ted from Nerdarchy, and we're going to be talking a little bit about Nerdarchy's upcoming presence at D&D in a Castle and the campaign Ted's running, and generally Ted as a DM. So, welcome, Ted.
Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be here and to kind of get into some more D&D conversations.
That's right. We had a little bit of a Q&A with all the DMs from the round that you're attending a couple of weeks ago on Mother's Day. So this is just a little chance to get a little bit deeper into the details. So the first thing I'm going to ask you, Ted, is tell us about the campaign that you are going to be running at D&D in a Castle August 18 to 22nd at Mohican Castle in the USA, our first American adventure with you.
Indeed. So super excited about coming to a new castle. This one I'm actually getting to drive to as opposed to having to, get on a flight, which means, some of the, fun stuff behind me that, I love and collect is going to be coming along with me so I can get to add, some more of my own stuff into the actual campaign. For a number of years, I've grown into the habit of every kind of game that I run, whether it be something happening at my local table or at an event or online, I give the game a name. Just because it's more fun to refer to it either on the chats or just in person. So the game I'm going to be running is called Curse on Kredgefer's Belt, and I'm a big fan of lycanthropes, werewolves, that kind of stuff. And for a while, we've got a number of videos on our channel that talk about, oh, you can play a werewolf or you can play a were creature, because in the monster manual, there are hard and fast rules of, hey, if you become a lycanthrope, this is what you get. And I've been thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it for so long. And I'm just like, you know what? I want to do this. I've got enough passion for were creatures, um, and I think a place like D&D in a Castle is a great place to do it because you've got serious gaming enthusiasts who show up for it, uh, and it's a place to be able to get to do something that's a little bit different. And because it's a full campaign that's being run, 24 hours of gaming, you get to tell a full combined story. Now, I've been working for the last several weeks on what I would refer to as a pared down, a streamlined and pseudo balanced system for all of the official were creatures that is available on D&D Beyond. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to make it easy. These are the options. This is how it's going to be. But more than just, what is there, I've got a way to you know, give players the options to play some fun stuff, but not be locked in on, oh, well, if I'm going to play a were creature, that means all of my things are going to be completely and utterly physical. And well, if you're interested in playing a spellcaster, then, well, you still got some options. Or like, if you get into my castle and you don't want to be a lycanthrope, well, you're going to be partying along with some were creatures, but I've got some options for what you would do if you want to just be a standard character as well.
Wow. So the characters, they'll all start out as were creatures. They don't like become
Indeed,
that.
yep. Correct. Right from moment one, you are going to. It's already going to be established. The primary area that the characters are going to be from is a settlement called Clawhaven, which is a new area in my world that I'm creating. That is a settlement for people who have come down or contracted lycanthropy and are looking to get it under control. Now, in a typical campaign world or in a typical D&D, lycanthropes across the board are generally perceived as evil, except for werebears. Werebears are somehow like, oh, you become a werebear, now you're all of a sudden good. Okay, I don't understand that one, but whatever. Uh, but that's the general. So there's nothing that necessitates, oh, all were creatures have to be evil. So perhaps it's more of an understanding that you're just uncontrolled because you have all of a sudden impulses that you don't know how to deal with and urges that you have to learn to control. So for what I'm working on, well, everyone is going to have come to this kind of location, either, you know, long in advance and learned here of how to get control of their powers, or gained control and found, oh, there are other like-minded souls out there, and come to, this location. But this is where it's all going to start, and it's going to be centered around this place, the inhabitants here, and what's going on. And of course, the players are going to have absolute control based on the actions that happen. But there's going to be a primary antagonist who is another lycanthrope who is seeking to change the way of life of Clawhaven and to, in some ways, try and gain dominance over the aforementioned lycanthropes.
Very cool. So have you played were creatures before, or where did this excitement for this come from?
All right. Well, so outside of D&D, there are plenty of other games that are out there. And long ago in my gaming past, the White Wolf system has the game Werewolf, and in college, I was exposed to the games of White Wolf, being Werewolf and Vampire. Never played Mage, uh, and I was deeply entrenched in the vast amounts of lore that White Wolf has to offer. In fact, each of the different were creatures got their own books. And even though I wasn't heavily playing White Wolf, I was more of a D&D fan. I collected those books just for, you know, the sheer enjoyment of reading the lore and gaining more insight into these different creatures. And I've retained all of those books through the decades and moving multiple times over the course of my life. So I dig those books. And every so often something will happen, whether it be a cool movie that comes out or a book that I read. But there has always been this yo-yo effect of lycanthropes having some kind of impact within media. And just recently, we were talking again off camera about it, because in a game that I play, ironically, on Thursday nights on it's Mini Terrain Domain over on Twitch, we're playing a Kids on Bikes game. And in that game, set in the 1980s, my character actually becomes a werewolf. And he's a 15-year-old, so teenage, high school werewolf nonsense. Lots of shenanigans that are going to happen. But I'm the player, so it's gotten me thinking for a while of like, okay, well, if I were to kind of run a lycanthrope game, what is that going to mean? What kind of things can I do as a DM? What kind of setting, is this going to really look like? So it just got the ball rolling, and as I said, a couple of weeks ago, I just decided I'm locking this in. I'm not, going through some of the craziness that I'm done before, where I come up with like 3 to 5 options and let the players vote. I just like, nope, I'm gonna I'm gonna do this. So I start developing this area, and then I'm like, oh well, if I'm going to make this thing here, what if I were to, kind of reach back into my own personal gaming history and pull out an old player character that I've done and put him in as the villain? And those of you who are more familiar with the channel, might recognize the name that comes up. But most people, I think, like maybe only 2% of the hardcore viewers might recognize the name, because it's not been anything that was on the channel. It was a game that was played well over 15 years ago. Um, but I just decided, I'm like, all right, I think this would be a proper character, and for me to kind of bring my character from a player into the villain, it'll be a nice send off to see that character, you know, officially retired.
Very cool. So it sounds like this campaign really reaches far back into your roots as a DM and as a player and as a gamer. And I also understand
Indeed.
that the setting that it's in is a Nerdarchy setting that the game will
Yes.
take place in. Is that right?
Indeed. So almost every game that I run is set in our home world or homebrew world, Chimes of Discordia, which has a little bit more, law versus chaos bent. It's a world that has, a very rich history. We've been playing in it for 3 decades at this point in time. Uh, I literally was looking at the document, just several days ago, but like our I've got a Google Doc of just our gods, and that alone is 100 pages long. Um, just in the list of gods, their rites, their practices, the different things. When we first created the world, we had exactly 30 gods divided as evenly as possible across the 9 alignments. And over the course of playing, some gods have been lost to the ages, some gods have been changed, some new gods have been added. When we started Nerdarchy, we needed to make some broader changes because it's like, well, this isn't really here. We kind of are missing this aspect, so let's just shove it in there. Um, and I've been kind of building it out and building it out at our local home game. One of the campaigns that's going to be run, one of the players is like, I want to run a game where everyone is a dwarven cleric. We're like, okay, that really narrows down the focus of the game. So I'm like, all right, I need to make sure that the DM is, able to withstand all of the divine information that we have, let alone, the rest of the campaign docs that are out there. Um, now for this particular game, there's only 2 gods that are really going to come up. If somebody wants to worship outside of these, this is, completely and utterly fine. And religion is not a necessity in my games, but I myself, cleric is my favorite class. So for me, having a religious bent to most of my characters is kind of a thing. But we have Morganas, which is the deity for um, beasts, were creatures, savagery, and evil druids. So very much fitting towards where our villain is
Mhm.
here. Excuse me. Hey, I'm getting over a cold that's been hounding me for the past week, so I apologize.
So it sounds like the at least the deity aspect of the were creatures is well developed, and it sounds like a very rich and complex setting that's got a lot to explore. Is exploration a big part of your games?
So I tend to try and leave that option in for the players who are going to ask questions. I am not I'm not Matt Mercer. I don't have, pages and pages and pages of backstory that are not written. But when I do a game, I like to make sure that there are some things that are there so that for players who decide to ask questions, I've got some stuff to go with. And if they ask things that I'm not prepared for, I'm pretty good at reactionary DMing. So I will come up with something and then make sure that the notes are taken. So that's added in because it becomes canon the moment it's said. Uh, but the other deity
Right.
that is going to be more for the positive side on our heroes is Kredgfer. And as I said at the beginning of the game, this is Curse on Kredgfer's belt. Kredgfer is our Arctic and Ranger deity. Now, we like to, have our world be a little bit different. And when we were creating our gods, we realized that we had pretty much, all of the typical D&D classes covered, but we didn't have one for Rangers. And at the time, nobody was like, "Oh, I'm really into Rangers. I'm this, I'm that." So nobody had any immediate inspiration for, "Oh, well, what are we going to call this particular god?" So one of my, friends at the time, and this is again over 20 years ago, he grabbed a fistful of D20s and just rolled them on the table. And we're like, "What are you doing?" He's like, oh, well, we're going to use a random letter generator just using D20s. So he starts, assigning the roles to letters. And we wound up getting, a K and an R and a D and a G and an F and an R. So the name Kredgefer was literally randomly rolled. And we just, kind of roll, set the dice up in an order that kind of made sense based on, the dice that we happen to have at that time. So as we, came up with Kredgefer and start developing the lore of this deity and what have you, like people were really getting into the idea, and we're like, okay, well, if he's about being a ranger and about being the Arctic, in a typical Arctic world, you've got to have, sorry, in a typical world, you've got to have a decent sized Arctic in order for that deity to have more influence. Well, most things are not going to, want to be in and around, that kind of climate. So we're like, well, what can we do different? So this is where our cosmos went through a massive overhaul. So if you've read the blog post where I'm talking about this game, Kredgefer's belt is a polar equator. So we have, our world is kind of listed as like a mega planet, and it has two suns that circle the planet itself. So therefore, the Arctic is literally on the equator. Um, this leaves for some very, interesting elements, and that it's not always easy to traverse the belt and get to the other side of the world. And that in itself can become a fun situation. Uh, so since in this particular element we're looking at having, the curse on Kredgefer's belt, Clawhaven is a settlement that is at the foot of one of these polar mountains. So terrain options for this particular campaign is going into the depths of the snow, going deep in the forest. So you've got some vast climate options that aren't all that very far from where Clawhaven is going to be. So depending upon what kind of things and what kind of side quests and quests the adventurers want to get into, like I'm excited to go and like, okay, we can go in lots of different directions, from a terrain and a story standpoint, because the climate options, can be so vastly different.
Cool. And you mentioned at the beginning, I know you love to work with terrain and
Hmm.
monsters and minis and physical pieces, and you have a vast collection from decades of gaming. So, without any spoilers, what kind of fun can
Sure.
people be looking forward to that you're going to be bringing with you?
So I mean, I have quite a lot of stuff. So I mean, I've got maps and minis. I mean, I've been organizing my collection for years. So like literally, it's like, oh, if I need orcs, I literally have a box that is just this is all orcs, and I dump it on the table. We've talked about numerous times on the channel that we'll be here for a game and somebody else is running, and as they start describing what the encounter is, like I'm getting looks from the other players, like, all right, Ted, get up and start pulling the stuff out. So like literally as Dave has been describing encounters or what we see in front of us, I'm already out of the table, or off the table, grabbing the appropriate box. Like, oh, will this work? Will this work? So sometimes it's pretty hilarious how quickly the stuff can hit the table and switch over from theater of the mind to nope, everything's right there. Because I keep things fairly close to. I mean, my computer here is on the table that we tend to game at. And there's books and minis behind me, but there's minis over there and there's minis over there, and it's very encompassing, down here in my nerd lair, just because, as you said, I've been doing this for so long, and pretty much since WizKids has started, since they started releasing pre-painted minis, like that's been it for me. I'm like, I got to be in on just about every set that they come out with, all of the big minis that they've landed. I mean, I've got behind me the old colossal red dragon. I don't know how well you can see it, but it is right up here above my head. You can see the feet of Tiamat up here. The Tarask is over there, and just all of the amazing things that have come out. I've tried to get my hands on just about everything.
Well, it sounds like your table is the table to come to if you wanna play with a lot of toys. And,
If
what
if
else
you like.
would be the kind of player that would be excited about your table? What's yours is the table for if you could.
Sure. So I'm a very reactionary GM. So while I will have lots of options and stuff planned, I'm not gonna come here not doing any work. That's just foolish. But I like to craft the story for the players. So while I have an overarching outline of what I see is planning to happen, the real adventure starts getting written once the players come to the tavern. And if you're not familiar with the tavern, Tara, do you want to give a quick
Yeah,
spiel
sure.
on that
So
for?
2 months before the event starts, we gather everybody online into our digital tavern. And so that's the opportunity for the players to meet each other digitally and also for them to connect with their DM. So they get 2 full months before the event starts to build their character and learn about the game, and for the DM to get input from the characters or from the players about their characters, their backstories, and their play style and what they're looking forward to about the game. So we hear that a lot from our DMs, that they like to kind of build their stories based on the characters and the players' hopes and dreams, to give them the best possible game based on what they actually love about D&D. So that is a thing at D&D in a castle, but also it's exciting when you join to know, this is the kind of story I want to play. That's the kind of DM that I want. Those are the kinds of things that excite me, and to sort of get inspired and excited by the campaign pitch. And what I love about your pitch, Ted, is, if you've ever wanted to play vampires, or not vampires, if you ever wanted to play,
Wolves.
werewolves or were creatures, were creature party, like that's not something that you can often just sort of come by. And it sort of reminds me also of Eliza Pearl's game, which is an underwater campaign. This is going to be the castle of playing those niche games that you might have been dreaming about, that you might be like, that sounds really cool. I'm not going to get that somewhere else. And I get to just dive into it for days after days.
Indeed.
Which is something I want to ask
Uh,
you about. You're a
Absolutely.
longtime gamer, and I know
Absolutely.
we're about the same age, so we kind of both are like '90s kids. And were you one of the kids that played, in the Stranger Things kind of way, like dusk till dawn, Friday through Monday
No.
morning? No?
Oh, completely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
when I was a kid, I mean, I grew up in the '80s, so the whole concept of um, what Stranger Things does is like, okay, get out of the house, be home by dark, like that's it. That's the caveat. So I grew up in a neighborhood. It was a very small neighborhood that everybody knew each other, everybody knew each other's business. But at any point in time, if you're out and about and oh, you got hurt, every single person would be like, oh, do you need a band-aid, do you need to get that washed off, or can I use the bathroom? Like, it was very much a different time. So for me, while yes, I've been a tantamount nerd for the majority of my life, it is a situation where like I still, was the kind of aspect of, okay, well, get out and go have fun. So I spent more than my fair share of time of roaming around the woods and climbing trees and, playing sports with the kids in the neighborhood. But once I got access to, games like D&D, like that that became a fairly major focus, and has remained a major focus, throughout my life. I mean, uh, my wife, now, like, we just celebrated our being married 19 years. Like, she knew, like, okay, I have a set gaming schedule, and while I cared for her, I was not changing my schedule to spend more time with her. And obviously we've been together for this long, so clearly that hasn't changed. But and it didn't affect the aspects.
So in terms of the sort of gaming for days, or
Hmm.
playing, getting into a campaign and staying there, day and night for multiple days, which
Hmm.
is what you do at the castle. Although honestly, at the castle, we go 8 hours a day in our regular campaigns, 12 in hardcore mode. But for those of us who were around for those youthful days of long stretches of freedom of time,
Sure.
that's bare minimum. Going to
Oh,
bed at 3 in the
completely.
morning and starting the game again at 7 and just going hard for 3, 4 days at a time. That's the D&D I grew up around. But still the multiple days of having that immersive experience, how does it compare at the castle? Does it achieve that for you in terms of that harking back to
So
that experience of playing for days?
I would get together with friends for days, but we wouldn't necessarily game. Like, yeah, we've had times where we did some crazy, weekend where it's like, okay, we'll game for 14 hours straight or some nonsense, but that's not something that happened frequently for me. Um, and it was something that to me D&D in a castle was a new experience because being able to say, all right, well, we're going to game 8 hours today, 8 hours tomorrow, and 8 hours the next day. That was, not more than I could handle, clearly, because I've done it multiple times. But it's something that it's like, okay, you have to come prepared. You have to come in with this is a passion of mine because, yeah, not everybody has the joy of being able to do that. But some people that they aren't good at sitting for so long. So like myself, if I'm going to be gaming that long, especially as a DM, I slide the chair to the side and I'm standing up and I'm being more active because that's how you keep the passion strong. That's how you keep the energy. As the leader of a table, as the DM, you have to be looking down at times. You need to be the one overseeing. But at the same time, as a player, like if you need to stand up, stand up. Be there, be present at the game, but be mobile. Some people are more than happy to come and just sit and live in the game. Um, you know, so like you have to be prepared for all aspects.
Yeah. And we have lots of things at the castle too for getting out and taking a break. There are 2 sessions that you game and one that you don't. So you do get a chance to sort of move around, do some archery. We're going to have a lot of stuff happening. You can even join one shots, or we're having some escape room style puzzle hunts and things like this happening at the castle. So lots of chances to, you know, stretch your mind and stretch your legs around that. But you get to just get your head in the game and just stay within the adventure mentally for multiple days without having to be pulled out by reality. Um,
You
so I'm
also
wondering, we're
you
getting
also
near the. Go ahead.
I was gonna say you also get to have a chance to be around a lot of other like-minded individuals. If you have the passion, you're gonna be, the passion for this game, you're gonna be around a lot of other people who feel the same way. And the number of people that I've met doing this, like they've all been great people. They've all been amazing to have conversations with. They've all been from different parts of the country or world. So like some people are meeting, new friends, and other people are talking about like, oh well, we should connect outside of here so that they can find a way to game together again. And, like when you hear these kinds of things, is like that's exciting.
Yeah. We're coming up to the end of our time. I wondered if you want to share what you're looking forward to about D&D in a Castle USA, specifically about this new venue, which is quite different from our other venue in the UK. In the UK.
Yeah.
So coming to this new venue in this new setting in this summer season, what are you excited about for that?
So I mean, it being a new location, I'm very excited to see this new spot, to see, what kind of gaming rooms we have access to, what are the amenities going to be like, how is the food going to be different from Lumley Castle, which I've been to D&D and a castle 3 times, but it's all been at Lumley. Dave's been to the castle in France and the castle in Langley, so he's been to more locations than I. So it was kind of like, all right, this is going to be something different, but we'll both be there at the same time, so we'll both get to see Mohican and experience it, all together. And I'm excited to see what this new place is like, as well as to see the wonderful staff again, see what kind of players are going to be joining my table. There are times where you get repeat customers, so I don't know if anybody is planning to sign up that's been to my table before, or has seen me at the castle, that we might interact again. So this is a lot of great things that looking forward to, because D&D in a castle is always a phenomenal time.
Cool. So, well, let's just close out with, give us your pitch. Invite the people of the internet who are watching to join your game at D&D in a Castle, August 18th to 22nd. Sell us on it. Who should come, and why should they come and join your game in particular, and join you at the castle?
All right, so I'm Nerdarchist Ted. I have been a gamer for well over 30 years. I have been a DM for well over 20 years, and it is something that I have a great passion for. I bring all pillars of D&D to my games, combat, social, and exploration. If you're the kind of player that is looking to do something different, by getting a chance to be a lycanthrope, a were creature, then my game is absolutely for you, because I have not seen this game pitched anywhere else. I've got a balanced rule set, and while I think it's like 8 or 9 options, if you have a particular animal that you fit with, that isn't already on the list, well, I might be amiable to working with you directly to come up with something that's going to fit for your character, because especially if we're talking about something that is just a physical appearance, I don't really care as much. But I'm not looking to have someone get one over on me. But it's going to be a fun and exciting it's going to be a fun and thrilling game. I'm really looking forward to seeing who out there is interested in this kind of game, because you're going to be over the moon about it.
Yeah, that sounds great. It sounds like if you want something completely unique that's custom tailored to the game of your dreams, in a setting, in a scenario that is unlike any other you've been in before, with someone who really has been in this world a lot. The world is rich. There's a lot to discover, and there's going to be a lot of fun stuff to play with as well. So that sounds like an amazing game, Ted. I really, I think your players are going to be very, very lucky, and I look forward to hearing how it all goes, and to seeing you again at the castle. So thank you so much for joining us at our DM Deep Dive. And if you want to learn more, you can head over to our website at dndinacastle.com, or find us on socials at dndinacastle. And the links are all through the website, or through the stream here. And there is even a live chat, and you can set up a call if you want to call us and ask us all your questions about D&D in a Castle and the different campaigns that are being offered at our various events. So thanks so much again for joining us, Ted, and we'll see you all at the castle.
See you in Ohio.